The Sonoma County Archives are a treasure in Sonoma County. They are documents and records that are recording the history of this county.
It is a unique collection. There's materials there that do not exist anywhere else.
If you have any interest at all in the past, or you have any curiosity about family or origins or anything about history, they're fun.
The Sonoma County Archives is a collection, and it's a place. The materials come from the County of Sonoma. Things generated by the Board of Supervisors, by committees, commissions, various departments, volunteers. It's managed by the Sonoma County Library.
At the History and Genealogy Library here, we have print materials on the shelf for people to consult. That is books, periodicals. We also have microfilm and newspapers, various types of materials like that. Off-site, we have the majority of our archival collections, and that includes the county records and also local donations of archival material. We have photographs, maps, action books, court records.
Besides the county records, the archives also includes a lot of what we call special collections. An example would be when Pedersen's Furniture Company went out of business. This is a long time Santa Rosa business. They donated materials to the library.
My job as the supervising librarian here at the History and Genealogy Library is to provide access to historical materials, whether they're local history or genealogy, and then help people enrich themselves through whatever research they have.
The Sonoma County Archives collection can be used by anybody. General public, county agencies, people doing genealogy, anyone.
My first encounter with them was probably in the 1960s when I was just beginning to write a column. I was a reporter part-time and a columnist part-time, and became aware of the 1920 lynching, and I went to the microfilm in the new courthouse, and I was instantly aware of how important they are.
You know, I wrote for 42 years for the Press Democrat, and you find out pretty soon that you just cannot write about what's going on now without having access to and having some understanding of what happened before.
So for those doing genealogy research, there is a lot of material that could be of help to them. Everything from coroner's inquests to school records.
Many people are understandably interested in understanding their community. People are interested in, hey, what's the history of the McDonald Mansion, and what happened to Santa Rosa Creek? Why is Santa Rosa Creek put underground downtown? So to feel a part of a place, you have to have some understanding where it came from and how it came to be what it is.
Another way that county records have been used is in discovering hidden stories of people. So right now there's a project done by Sonoma State University and the NAACP on studying slavery in all of its forms within the county. And so that is really important work that will enrich the history of this county.
So right now, one of the hot topics, one of the big areas of questions that people want to hit the archives for has to do with climate change. Because in so many of those records, there are hints and bits and pieces of the story of how the watercourses flowed across the Santa Rosa Plain 100 years ago. How many fires have we had? What kinds of farming practices were the very beginnings of agriculture in this county? These are questions that are becoming really, really critical.
It's also important from a standpoint of government transparency and accountability because you have the original documentation.
A candidate says something happened in the past. It's critically important as a society that you can check. all of us are swimming in a sea of alternative facts and fake news and misinformation. And for young people coming up and trying to learn how to make critical decisions and evaluate this goo of floating statements, being exposed to the archives, it's a way to introduce them to the concept of fact-based knowledge.
The Sonoma County Archives, the part that comes from the county still maintains legal ownership of those records. But they've given them to us because we can provide better support of those records and also public access to those records.
Accessibility is very important because if only the top echelon or only the intelligentsia or whatever have access to those things, you're lobbing off a whole section of the population that has their own needs to know, and we can't know what those are. And so they have to be open and accessible.
Since the 60s, we've been maintaining these records. They were stored off-site at a different location at Los Guilicos off Highway 12. And they were there for several years until the fires. That location became really unsafe for the materials.
The fire came within feet of that building, and there but for, as my mother would say, there but for the grace of God, they went.
So there was a lot of community effort. There was a lot of library effort to move those materials from where they were located, working with the county to find a safe location now, which is closer here in Santa Rosa.
The new facility is much more suitable in that it's a newer building, it has climate control, has better security, it's outside of what we consider the fire zone. However, this site is temporary and discussions are ongoing about the future of the archives. For one thing, the current location is still 9 miles from the Sonoma County History and Genealogy Library, so there's a lot of moving of materials back and forth.
Every 2 weeks, we go to the archives, grab materials for people, and return it here. So the typical turnaround is about 2 weeks. If the library was in the same building as the archives, the turnaround time could be within minutes. And so that is a goal for the future, is to have a space that's right where we are.
For this collection to be accessible, it needs funding, it needs a permanent facility.
I would love to see a building where we have the right shelving, where we have the right spaces, where we have enough staff, and that people can come in and enjoy the materials.
We've got this amazing treasure trove that is quite rare.
The Sonoma County Archives document us. They document our history, our industry, our culture, our people.
We can't know where we are if we don't know where we've been.
The archives don't just exist for today's questions. They exist for the questions we haven't even asked yet.